In this video, we're gonna start coding in Java. So just open your project and then go to the app folder, Java, and the first package here, this is the package that you specified for your application. Open it and you will see the main activity class. Just double click on this class and then here it is opened. If you want to, you can double click on this tab in order to make this area, this editor area, wider. So notice that at the left, we've got this project pane, and at the center, we've got this editor area. So let's learn about variables first. Here, you don't have to worry about this main activity class or this app compat activity or anything else yet. You're gonna learn all about Java in this course. For now, just follow my lead and just go inside the curly braces. You can see that we've got an opening curly brace and a closing curly brace for this onCreate method. You will also learn more about methods in this course. So let's go here inside this onCreate method. And now let's start learning about variables. And now you might wonder, what is a variable? A variable is simply a container or a box for a value. What do I mean by that? For example, I want to have a box that contains an integer value. How can I create that? So here I'm gonna say int. So int stands for integer in Java. And then we need to give our box or container a name. So I'm gonna name it as my box. And then we need to put an assignment operator. So how we put an assignment operator? We put the equal operator, but this is not called an equal operator in programming. This is called assignment operator. Why? Because whatever we put at the right side of this operator is going to be assigned to the left side of this operator. So for example, if I assign number 10 here to this variable, this means that I am actually assigning this number 10 to the left side of this operator, which is this my box. In other words, I am putting this number 10 inside this my box. Now this my box contains this number 10, okay? So when I say my box assignment operator 10, this doesn't mean that I am saying that my box equals to 10. That is not correct. I am actually saying that I am putting this number 10 into this my box. I am assigning this number 10 to this box. That's correct. So hopefully that makes sense. And you can notice that at the end of my code, I put this semicolon. So in Java, this means period. This means the end of our code. So you must put a semicolon at the end of your statement. Otherwise, the compiler is going to complain. A compiler is a software that compiles our code for errors. So if you don't put a semicolon at the end of your statement, then it's gonna show you an error, okay? And it says that a semicolon is expected at the end of the statement. So we must put the semicolon at the end of our statement in order to indicate that our code is ended. This is the end of our statement. So to recap, first you must specify the data type of your variable, the data type of your box. For example, if you create a box that can contain a decimal value, then you cannot assign a string value. A string value is a text value. You're going to learn it in this lecture later. But for now, I want you to know that the data type is very important. Okay? When I say integer is the data type of the variable, I must assign a value of type integer to that variable. So next, you need to specify the name of your variable. In this case, the name is my box. Now you might wonder, why do we have to specify a name for our variable? The reason for that is that you might want to use your variable later in your code. So in order to refer to your variable must have a name. Otherwise, you won't be able to refer to your variable later in your code because your variable is unknown. But now that we give a name to our variable, then it is known and we can refer to it later if we need it. So here, after specifying the name, we need to put the assignment operator here, and then we assign the value to our variable. and semicolon. So this is the syntax for creating a variable in Java. And for example, I want to create a variable that is going to contain a decimal value. Can we do that? Yes, we can. So the data type for decimal values is float. So the name of my variable is going to be my float box assignment operator. So now I need to assign a floating value, a decimal value to my variable. So I'm going to assign the value 4.2. So here, because the data type of my variable is float, I must put the letter F at the end of my value or literal. The literal is the value that we assign to our variable. So the letter F must be put here. Why? Because the data type of our variable is float. And then we put the semicolon here. If you don't put the letter F here, it's gonna show you an error, and if I hover over this error area, it says incompatible types, required float, found double. Okay, so it's very important that you specify the type float. Otherwise, the compiler might think that the value or the literal that you are assigning to your variable is of type double. Now you might wonder, what is the double? So the double is another decimal type, but it has more precision. In other words, the double data type can store larger values. So let's create a variable of type double. Let's say double, and it's going to be my double box assignment operator. So now I can say 3.3457893 semicolon. So here notice that we don't need to put any identifiers in order to specify that our variable or our literal is actually double, because the default is double. Okay, but if you want to create a float variable, you must put the letter F in order to specify that, in order to indicate that your literal is float. But in the case of double, you don't need to do that. You can just assign your literal, your decimal value, to your double variable. That's it. Now here, let me tell you something about the layout, the linear layout. Here I might have already mentioned that the linear layout that we have here, it has an attribute called orientation, and the default orientation is always horizontal. Okay, so here notice that for this linear layout I didn't specify the orientation attribute because I know that the default orientation is horizontal, and if I want to change the horizontal orientation to vertical, I can just type in here orientation and then change it to vertical. But if it is already horizontal, then I don't need to specify the orientation attribute for my linear layout. But in the case of the parent layout, notice that I use the orientation vertical. So here it is the point that I wanted you to know about the linear layout, because I saw the difference between float and double literals. So I just wanted to make sure that you know the difference between a horizontal and a vertical layout and its attributes. So here I have a simple exercise for you. Go ahead and create a variable of type button in your code. You don't have to initialize your button, but here I want you to exercise how you can create a variable in Java. You can also use your web browser in order to search how to create a button in Java to solve this exercise. So when you're ready, pause the video and give this exercise your best shot, and then continue watching this tutorial in order to see how I am going to solve this problem. So open your web browser and search for Android Java create button programmatically. So here we've got a Stack Overflow website. We've got this link that is going to show us some helpful examples so we can see how we can create buttons dynamically in code. So notice that what this user has done. We've got a button, so notice that the data type button is used. There is a name, assignment operator, and we've got this syntax to create a button object. You'll learn more about creating objects later in this course. But for now, I'm just gonna copy this line of code, and I'm gonna go back to my Android Studio and paste it here. So notice that we've got a button. The data type is specified here as button, the name, assignment operator, and here it is the initialization code of this variable. So hopefully that makes sense. This is how you create a variable in Java. First, you specify the data type, name, assignment operator, and then you initialize your variable. In the next video, we're gonna learn about clicking on a button or view in Android. I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial.